So I'm going to be doing a series of videos, at least once every week, God willing, in which I'm going to be exposing false doctrines. And the first one I would like to talk about is the doctrine of original sin. Is that even biblical? There are many Christians who say that it is biblical, and I'll read one of the texts that they use to justify belief in that doctrine. But further study will show that it's not biblical. So the doctrine of original sin has been made very popular by the Catholic Church, just like Christmas has been made popular by the Catholic Church, and Sunday sacredness. For those maybe who don't know this, but the Catholic Church actually says this openly in her writings, that they changed the day of worship from Saturday to Sunday. Okay, so I'm going to read Psalms 51 verse 5, which says, "Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." And those who believe in the doctrine of original sin will say, so you see there, the doctrine of original sin is biblical because of that verse, because it says, "I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." But remember, okay, let's go back a bit, and I've said many times, numerous times, that we're not to make a doctrine out of something that's not even written in the Bible. The words original sin are not in the Bible. These are things that are conjured up by men. Okay, similar to the word Trinity, it does not appear in God's word, and I think I've given lots of proofs to show that even the doctrine of the Trinity is false. It's satanic. Okay, there's only one God, not three gods. You can go back and watch some of my other videos where I spoke about that. So the words original sin are not in the Bible. And then let's look at some of the things that were said in this verse. "I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." But that can be the very end part of that word, verse rather, can be read in two ways. My mother conceived me in sin, perhaps in sin rather. Maybe it's saying that the mother was sinful. Okay, but even if it's referring to the baby having sin, let's look at what the definition of sin is in the Bible, not according to man's opinions, but according to God's word. 1 John 3 verse 4 says, "Whosoever commits sin transgresses also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law." Okay, what is sin? Sin is the transgression of the law. So the next question is, can a baby, especially even a baby in its mother's womb, can a baby commit sin? Since sin is a transgression of the law, babies do not commit sin. Okay, and I believe 1 John 3 verse 4 is the only place where sin is defined. There's another verse actually somewhere else, but that talks about kind of gives a different definition of sin. But 1 John 3 verse 4 gives a very good definition. One of the only verses that gives a very good definition of what sin is. Clearly says it's a transgression of the law. And like I said already, babies do not commit crime. Okay, they don't transgress God's law. Specifically, the Ten Commandments, babies do not break the Ten Commandments, so they cannot not be held accountable. Remember, I've said in my videos before, maybe for those who haven't watched my videos before, I did say, especially in my testimony, I explained that I was in the police for 12 years in the UK. There was never a time in my 12 years that I arrested a baby, because you have to reach a certain age for you to be held accountable for committing crime. And I believe the age was 10, if I remember correctly, 10 or 12. But anyone under the age of 10 could not be arrested for committing a crime, because it's basically they don't have the mens rea or the capacity to understand that what they're doing is wrong. Of course, that if a child under the age of 10 killed another child, that I think that will be dealt with differently, because that's very, very serious. Okay, or even things like rape. But generally speaking, children are not held accountable for their actions. It's normally when they get to a certain age that they start being arrested and being put before the courts for prosecution. Next verse, Romans 8 verse 3. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh, God sending his own Son in the likeness of sinful flesh, and for sin condemned sin in the flesh. So here we see that Jesus came in the same likeness as we have. It says in the likeness of sinful flesh, because Jesus actually had the nature that Jesus had when he came to the earth is the same nature that Adam had after the fall, not before the fall. Remember that Adam and Eve were perfect when they were first created, but they fell after they basically believed Lucifer rather than believing God, and then ate of the forbidden fruit. Okay, but Jesus had the nature of Adam after the fall, not before the fall. But he never sinned. Jesus never sinned, even having that nature. Okay, it says here, the very last words of that verse, condemned sin in the flesh. Then we have Ezekiel 18:20, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father, neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. So the belief in maybe I should have explained this at the beginning, but in the doctrine of original sin, it's believed that Adam and Eve's sinfulness is passed down to us and everyone who is born on this earth. Since the time of Adam and Eve, everyone has been born with original sin, or having basically, and I'm not denying that we have a sinful nature, we have a tendency to commit sin. I'm not denying that. I'm saying, but there's no such thing as original sin. A baby is not born with original sin. They are not. You can't hold a baby accountable for sin when actually sin is a transgression of the law. So the Catholic Church teaches that in this doctrine of original sin, that we are all guilty of sin basically from the time we are born, which is incorrect, because like I've already said, babies do not commit sin, including those in the womb. Okay, it doesn't even make sense, because sin is the breaking or the transgression of God's law, which is the Ten Commandments. So I was just reading Ezekiel 18:20, and I didn't finish it. But let me just go back as well and read some of it again. The son shall not bear the iniquity of the father. So we don't bear the iniquity of Adam, okay, or Eve. Neither shall the father bear the iniquity of the son. The righteousness of the righteous shall be upon him, and the wickedness of the wicked shall be upon him. Everyone will be punished according to what they have said or done. You can't be punished for what someone else has done. We are not going to be punished for what Adam and Eve did. Everyone is punished for their own actions. Hebrews 2 verse 16. For verily, speaking of Jesus, for verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham. And having this nature, which is not the same as the angels, like I already explained, Jesus had the same nature as Adam after the fall, but he did not commit sin. So if it's true that everyone is born a sinner, how come that doesn't apply to Jesus? How come Jesus wasn't born a sinner? Because Jesus never even sinned even once when he was on this earth. And I know that Roman Catholics will apply that to Mary as well, and they'll say they will speak of immaculate conception, and they will apply that to Mary as well. Not just to Jesus. They'll say Jesus was born without sin, but that Mary was also born with sin. And then they continue going up and up and up and up. So it's like it's ridiculous. You can't say on one side you say everyone is born in sin, but then you say Mary wasn't born in sin, and her ancestors weren't born were not born in sin. You can't pick and choose. So the doctrine of original sin is not biblical. It's not. It's a false doctrine. just like many other doctrines from the Catholic Church. We are born with a sinful nature, but the decision to sin is is made through choice. Okay, we're born with a tendency to commit sin, but we don't take responsibility, or we are not we're not held accountable for the sins that our ancestors committed, including our parents. Okay, because there's that verse that already says, everyone shall be held accountable for their own sins, and sin is the transgression of the law. Do you think it's right that for those who believe in a hell that burns forever, and they believe in the doctrine of original sin, and in the Catholic Church they believe that that's why they baptize babies, because they say that if a baby dies without having been baptized, they'll go to hell. And according to some Christians and even Catholics, they believe in eternal hell, which is not biblical. So the question is, will God burn babies in hell forever and ever, because of original sin? And especially for those who believe that if a baby dies without being baptized, they go to hell. Is God going to burn babies in hell? I don't believe that there'll be even one baby that's going to be burnt in the fires of hell, because babies don't commit sin. It's those who are aware, and God knows everyone, what age exactly, and this you can't apply an age to knowledge of right and wrong, because every child is different, every person is different. Unlike what we used to do in the police, where we would say everyone above 12 could be held accountable. I believe God is going to judge every case differently. It's going to judge each person case by case, okay? Because God knows everything. So yeah, I hope what I'm saying makes sense. I know that I've connected many things, and sometimes maybe gone off on a bit of a tangent, but you see, there are many connections in these things, because once we depart from God's word, we start believing in false things, and one false belief leads to another, from original sin to babies having to be baptized, to infant baptism, and then from infant baptism, if some believe that if a baby is not baptized, if they die, they go to hell. All this stuff, it's all, these are all lies from the devil. The best thing is to stick to what God says. And if you have a doctrine, and if you look at a word, and that word is not even found in God's word, the word is not found in the Bible, then I would suggest you basically run away from that, okay, and stop believing in it. I'll give an example here. So I mean, the word Trinity, which I've already mentioned several times in my videos, but also the word purgatory. There is no such thing as, the word purgatory doesn't even appear even once. And someone could say, how do you know that? Well, I've read the Bible many times. I'm reading through it for the 18th time. And also there's an app called eSword, electronic sword. If you go and type in the word purgatory, it won't come up, okay, because that word is not there. That was just made up by the Catholic Church to scare people into believing in a halfway point, in a place that's between hell and heaven, where you're supposed to burn, to scare you into giving money to the church. Okay, we know that's one of the things that Martin Luther was protesting against when he wrote those 95 theses, which he nailed to the door in Wittenberg, okay, in Germany. So yeah, it's interesting to study, but at the end of the day, the doctrine of original sin is false, and we should run away from it. But I hope that's helpful for those who are searching for truth, and those who are also want to forsake all false doctrines, because we remember that we have been lied to from the time we were born, not just in school but also in church as well. So if the church that you go to believes in stuff like this, I'll suggest you look for another church. Okay, if they're practicing spiritual formation and spiritual exercises and all these doctrines that I'm going to be talking about, I suggest you run away and look for another church that actually follows what God's word says. But that's where I'll end it, and I'll see you in the next one.